The next kind of credit transaction or the next kind of contract of loan is the simple loan or the mutuum. So in a mutuum, as what we have discussed in our comparison earlier, the subject matter here is money or consumable thing. So as defined, guys, mutuum is a contract whereby one of the parties, the creditor, delivers money or other consumable thing to the debtor, the bailee, with the understanding that the same amount of the same kind and quality shall be paid. So in Article 1953, the borrower or the obligor here acquires the ownership of the thing loaned or of the money loaned, because it is very difficult to make use of the object of the contract of loan without without consuming it, because by its nature, it is really intended to be consumed or to be used. Thus, in a contract of mutuum, guys, here, this is really referred to as the loan for consumption. Kung ang comodatum is the loan for use, a mutuum is the loan for consumption of the object or of the money. Hence, the object here is the law is very specific that the subject matter or the object in a mutuum is a fungible thing, a consumable thing, or money. Okay, now, 1954, a contract whereby one person transfers the ownership of non-fungible things to another with the obligation on the part of the latter to give things of the same kind, quantity, and quality shall be considered as a contract of barter. So a contract of barter, here you are giving non-fungible things. Whereas in mutuum, the subject matter is really fungible things. So that is the difference between barter and mutuum. Now, how do you perform the obligation in mutuum? So in Article 1955, when you are going to pay now your loan, the obligation of the person who borrows money shall be governed in accordance to Articles 1949 and 1950 of the Civil Code. That means if you are borrowing money, then you are going to pay in legal tender. That is the currency used in our jurisdiction, and therefore you can compel your creditor to accept it in payment of your obligation. Okay, so 1949 legal tender. If you borrow money, so you pay in legal tender. Whereas in 1950, guys, if you borrow money, you are going to pay it according to the amount agreed upon. However, in cases of extraordinary inflation or deflation, then the basis of the payment shall be the value of the currency at the time of the creation of the obligation. So kung pila siya when you borrow that money or borrow that amount, then that is the amount you are going to pay. Okay? Now, if ever the object is a fungible thing, then you are going to give the same object, same kind, quality, and quantity of the same object. Di man gud pwede nga mahatag nimo exactly the same object kay lagi makonsume manimo. So sa katong ako example ganina sa comodatum, if you borrow bugas, if you really consume it, di man na nimo mauli exactly the same bugas, diba? So you just return the same kind, quality, and quantity. Kung sa kwarta pod, how do you use money? But you spend it. So it's impossible for you to be able to return exactly the same money or exactly the same bill, the same serial number. But what you can do the most is to give the same amount. So if let's say nagsabot mo 10,000 nga tag 1,000 yun, then get lang different, as long as you have 1,000 peso bills, bahalag dili same ang serial number, but it's the same amount as agreed upon, then that is already sufficient for your payment in a contract of mutuum. Now, since you borrow, most of the times in mutuum, guys, you borrow money. Are you liable to pay interest? Kailangan ba na interest? Although I know, I understand that in most contracts, that is payable with interest. But is interest really a legal, automatically a legal obligation of the borrower? Well, in 1956, guys, an interest is only a liability if it is expressly agreed upon in writing. Okay? So you are only liable to pay interest if you have an express agreement in writing. If there's not, then you are only bound to pay the principal amount. In 1957, if you are bound to pay with interest, is the usury law still applicable? Well, not anymore. Suspended ang usury law. Now, unsa man ang usury law? Ang usury law, guys, that is a specific law where it punishes, makes it a criminal offense when the creditor imposes penalty beyond the ceiling. Although suspended siya, subot pasabot, wala na cap sa amount of interest nga chargeable by the creditor. Okay? But that does not also mean that the creditor can impose interest or penalty sa paggusto lang niya, because the courts have the authority to regulate. And anyway, what we have now is legal interest. Diba? So if the parties fail to agree on the interest rate, then it will be the legal interest. If you charge more than the legal interest, acceptable gihapon siya, provided it is not excessive, okay, and not oppressive. So the only guideline karon sa korte is that the amount of interest is not shocking to the senses, not excessive, not oppressive to the debtor. Okay? 1958, if ever there's really interest, so the determination of the interest, if it's payable in kind, its value shall be appraised at the current price of the products or goods at the time and place of payment. Okay? 1959, interest due and unpaid shall not earn interest. So I'm not very sure about this, but I think this is compounded interest. Kana ganing interest earn, if you fail to pay interest, it will also earn interest. Okay, so that is not allowed. But if agreed upon by the parties, as long as there's agreement in writing, then pwede na siya, and the court can still regulate the interest liability of the debtor. 1960, if the borrower pays interest when there is no stipulation to do so, then this will be governed by a quasi-contract of solution in debiti. Therefore, the creditor has to return the interest paid by mistake, because you have to take note that you cannot unjustly enrich yourself at the expense of the other person. Okay? 1961, usurious contract shall be governed by the usury law. Again, not very applicable nowadays because the usury law is already suspended. So that's the rule. Those are the rules on mutuum or simple contract, simple loan, I mean.